Hey Vinyl community, it's David Michael. I'm going to do something different today. I haven't done one of these videos in a while, something that's not thrift store related or new arrival find video. This is kind of by request actually. I've had a few people ask me to feature the music of T.Rex, and I have a little bit of time today, so I thought I'd do that. I will preface this all by saying if you are stumbling on this video and you've not seen my previous videos and you're a kind of a hardcore Marc Bolan fan, you might want to skip to a different video. Not even my video, just something else, because I'm sure you'll find fault in my video here, or maybe something will be factually incorrect, as I am not rehearsed in doing this. I'm just going to, top of my head, it's going to go with this one. But if you're insisting on watching this video, I will say that I belong to several T.Rex Marc Bolan Facebook groups, and their fans, especially the ones that kind of grew up with the music in the early 70s, and they were part of the T.Rex kind of mania. They're very possessive of the legacy. They're very protective of the legacy, and a very opinionated group of people they are. So they're not very tolerant of people maybe making the odd oops, or they're not very much into people making opposing views as they might have, as I've found out. To each your own. I will, if you're insisting on watching this video, and this is the first time you've seen me, I will tell you that I'm in Canada, and I did not grow up with T.Rex due to my age. Really quickly, how I discovered T.Rex is I was booking bands at this live club. I would run my record store during the day, and I was the head booker at this club, and I would DJ a lot on the main floor. But on Saturday nights, I had a residency upstairs, which was intended to be punk rock, which was a lot of our crowd was punk. And downstairs was a whole different thing. But I did that for a lot of years upstairs, and slowly a lot of the punks were requesting a lot of glam rock. As you know, there was that slight switchover between glam and punk, and then Marc Bolan kind of embraced it in the end. But that's a different story. So I thought, you know, I'm getting all these requests for glam rock, I better kind of investigate and kind of, you know, apart from the hits that I knew. So I went out and bought some best of collections from different bands like Sweet and all that. And I bought a double T.Rex greatest hits. And that's where I kind of started digging deeper and really falling in love with the music. And that was about 17 years ago now. 15, 17 years. So it's along that timeline there. And it slowly became more and more until I guess you might call me a bona fide collector now. Although I don't troll eBay and endlessly buy T.Rex stuff. I do pick up everything kind of more or less that comes out. And I do pick up kind of original pressings when I do see them. So having said that, that is my history with T.Rex. If you're one of those original fans that grew up with Marc Bolan, let's just leave it at that. Cheers, everyone. So for the few people that asked me to kind of go through the T.Rex catalog, we're going to go through this. We're going to dispense with the Tyrannosaurus Rex material. It's a whole different kettle of fish, and it's not the first thing you should listen to. It's very acoustic bongo percussion based, and if you're expecting kind of Get It On and Telegram Sam, that's not what that is. That's Marc Bolan and Steve Peregrine took just Marc on his knee, Marc sitting on his bum, legs crossed, playing acoustic guitar, and Steve playing his percussion bongos, you want to call them, whatever you want to call them. So that's what that is. That's what that group is. I will say, let's start with this one. This is the last Tyrannosaurus Rex album that was made, and it's kind of like the bridge album that bridges that acoustic Marc Bolan with the electric Marc Bolan. He was always a teen idol in the making. That's what he always kind of wanted to be, and he made that transition. And I think the acoustic music, more or less, was kind of an introduction for him to kind of get his foot in the door, express that side, and then he was gonna, I think he was always kind of intending to kind of transition over. But let's start with this album. This is the bridge album, A Beard of Stars. This is the more or less reissue, the 2-album reissue that came out not too long ago. A very good reissue of that one. But this is the original Canadian pressing on Blue Thumb Records. which was kind of my introduction to kind of this album. Like I said, this is where he slowly is starting to very slowly introduce the electric guitar, which kind of would have been forbidden in the earlier Tyrannosaurus Rex albums. But if you are insisting on, my recommendation is kind of work your way backwards. Start with the T-Rex stuff, and then you kind of get a better understanding, and then it's kind of, I think it's easier to digest, because a lot of his earlier albums are very challenging. And like I said, you're not going to get Get It On. So I would recommend this one if you're insisting on discovering or dipping your toe in the water of Tyrannosaurus Rex. This is the closest you'll get. This is like I said, the bridge album between this and the first proper T-Rex album. Favorite songs on this album, I would say Elemental Child. I would say maybe you want to sample that one. Woodland Bop is a good one. By the Light of the Magical Moon. My favorite tracks off this one are Beer of Stars by the last, under the name Tyrannosaurus Rex. And oddly enough, this was the last album with Steve Peregrine Took. Here's a nice little picture of him, if you wanted to know. He was Marc's little musical partner in the Tyrannosaurus Rex. And after this album, he kind of got the boot. However the circumstances was behind that, and he hired a gentleman named Mickey Finn. And that leads us to the first T-Rex album proper. This one is the 45th anniversary edition that Rhino put out. And if you're intent on buying one reissue, I would say go for this one. It's readily available still. It's part of their Rocktober campaign, and it's the faithful reproduction of the U.S. one that came out. That has as the last track "Ride a White Swan," and they replaced the song "Children of Ran," which was the kind of the running order in the UK. But this is kind of the best reissue that I've heard out there, and I have a few. It's the faithful reproduction of the poster sleeve. Anyways, this album here, this is the first kind of full-on T-Rex album. There's still elements of that acoustic Tyrannosaurus Rex, but it's very much kind of shoved aside now, and he's kind of well on his way of becoming that rock pop star he's always wanted to be. Very good album. Ride a White Swan was a massive hit in the UK. And we should probably preface this all by saying he only had a couple charting singles in North America. Get It On, and I think one other one. I think Telegram Sam might have charted higher in the charts. But that's maybe about it for his North American success. But a lot of these singles were, as you might know, million-selling singles in the UK, and they're kind of part of the musical fabric of 70s UK music. But you know, if you wanted to make this your first listen instead of something obvious like Electric Warrior or The Slider, it's not a bad first listen for you. You're going to get a lot of that classic T-Rex sound in this one. This one is the first T-Rex album, and it's a great album. Favorite songs off this one, Ride a White Swan. And what's odd about this album too, it has two, I think it's two reworkings of older Tyrannosaurus Rex songs, which is The Wizard, which is actually predates Tyrannosaurus Rex, and 1 Inch Rock. They kind of revamped those songs up for his new sound. So yeah, if you're going to talk North American version, Ride a White Swan is definitely the best song on this one. Like I said, you just can't lose. This whole album is just good. I don't know what else there is to say about it. It's the start of T-Rextasy with this album here. Self-titled T-Rex album. I'm not going to give things ratings. I'm not good at that. I don't know. Like it's not all 10 out of 10, that's for sure. But that one is definitely. I don't want to be pegged down to ratings. Should I do ratings? That's a solid 8 out of 10 when we're talking T-Rex material. Oh yeah. So by the way, this is the UK repressing that came out not too long ago. This is kind of like a faithful reproduction of the Fly Records version that came out. I didn't bother to pull out a lot of my original pressings. I don't like to bring them out too much, so we'll bring out the reissues. So yeah, there's another pressing of that one. And we'll try not to make this too much show and tell time. That brings us to 1971. That was actually T-Rex, if I didn't say it was 1970. This is 1971, and this is the one that broke him open. We all know this one, Electric Warrior. Electric Warrior. Like I said, this is the one that kind of introduced him more or less to the Americans. And this is the one that kind of, I think, really cemented and started the T-Rex phenomenon in the UK. I would say definitely if you're a new fan of T-Rex or Marc Bolan, if you're a younger person, I mean, this has to be the one you start off with. There's a few that are kind of, I would say, acceptable substitutes, like the aforementioned self-titled and the next one you're going to see. But if you're going to get one, this is probably the easiest, most readily available one you can probably buy in any proper record store, is Electric Warrior. Like I said, they're full on, they're a lean rock machine on this one. And like I said, this is if I'm going to give ratings, it's a 10. How can you say anything less about that? 10 out of 10. Like I said, these are all kind of going to be one that if I'm going to be one of those ratings guys, it's all relative to the T-Rex catalog. So I mean, really, this thing is just, there's not a bad song on Electric Warrior. You can't know what else to say about it. If I'm going to pick a kind of a left field favorite song on here, you know, I could say Get It On, and I could say, you know, whatever. I'm going to say Jeepster. Jeepster, favorite song on this album. Electric Warrior. If you're a younger person watching, that's the one to start with. Which brings us on to this one. And I have these are just, and I kind of just grabbed my pile off the shelf. And some of you who watch my older videos, you know I've been collecting some of their recent reissues. That's the Sainsbury exclusive, colored vinyl. This is a really good reissue that came out recently. It's the double version of Slider, which has the demos album called Rabbit Fighter. But I digress. That's kind of, you know, nerdy, hardcore collector stuff. We're going to talk proper Slider, 1971. Was it 71 or 72 we up to now? 70, 71. This is 72. Watch me screw this up. Slider is kind of the Electric Warrior Part 2, in the sense that they could be interchangeable. Once again, like I said, it's kind of like, I think this is probably the end of that full-on kind of T-Rex sound that the casual fan might know. Because after that, he starts introducing new sounds. Some to great effect, some to not so great effect. But Slider, it's like I said, I would say this is number 2 to Electric Warrior if you're looking to dip your toe in the water. Also something that's very easily accessible, very easily available to anyone. Like I said, the Electric Warrior and Slider, they're kind of interchangeable in a certain sense. It would have made one hell of a double album, I tell you that. But thank God he spread it out. Interestingly enough, the credits credit these photos, and I think he might have did it as a little bit of hype. He credits Ringo Starr with these photographs as they were filming the movie Born to Boogie around the same time, apparently. But actually, it's kind of come to light as I've discovered that producer Tony Visconti, who produced all the kind of classic T-Rex material and all the Tyrannosaurus Rex material. If you don't know Tony Visconti, he was the producer of all the well-known David Bowie albums. But it turns out, in fact, that Tony Visconti claims that he took all these photos, and that crediting Ringo Starr was kind of like a marketing move, more or less. Favorite songs off here? Oh my goodness! I'm gonna have to pick a left ball, a curveball pick for us baseball fans. I'm gonna go with Buick McCain. There you go. But obviously Telegram Sammy, everyone knows. You might know Metal Guru. That's another popular song off here. And I believe Guns N' Roses covered Buick McCain for their Spaghetti Incident album, which they kind of morphed it with a Soundgarden song. But anyways, Slider, 1972. Which brings us to Some people call this their favorite T.Rex album, and I can see why. It's Tanks, 1973. This was kind of, in the UK anyways, this was kind of the start of the slight decline of, and I found a poster in this one, I didn't know that was in there. This was kind of a little bit of the start of the little bit of decline in sales for Marc Bolan, as he kind of was introducing a little bit more. He wanted to branch his sound out. He was introducing different guitar effects, the aid of female backup singers, just different little sounds. And it's not something that you would expect the average 14-year-old girl in the UK at the time to kind of grasp onto, as he wanted to expand his sound. And while I have this, I'm gonna look at this poster that I never saw before. Oh, there you go. There's the poster that came with Tanks. Anyways, Marc Bolan, if you don't know, and T.Rex, they were accused a lot in the media in the UK of being basically recording the same thing over and over and over again. And I've heard many interviews with Marc Bolan who viciously just denied all of that. That, he was quite defensive about that. He was trying to introduce more, just a wider range of sounds. And even when he did do that, they still kind of retained that core sound he couldn't get away from. And I think that's kind of what the critics attacked him for a lot. So good for bad, whether you like the female singers, whether you like his, I think growth is better than anything else. But I think it all kind of worked very well in this one. 1973's Tanks. Hey, I didn't give ratings, didn't I? Electric Warrior 10, Slider 10. Can't beat those ones. Anyways, Tanks. Favorite songs off Tanks. Woo. Born to Boogie. Life is Strange, probably. And Tenement Lady, if you want to kind of sample Tanks. 1973, and like I said, this was kind of like, you could kind of maybe draw a thin line of Electric Warrior, Slider, and Tanks being kind of a trilogy almost of that classic T.Rex sound. Like I said, this was the kind of start of the decline of sales for Marc Bolan, as he really was trying to break the US market and took his eye off the UK market, much to his detriment. And he never did. He never did break that American market like he wanted to. He toured and toured, and like I said, he had this success in the UK, and I guess he thought he could kind of, that was taking care of itself, and he just couldn't break it. In fact, my mother-in-law told me a story recently, which I didn't know, which shocked me, that she actually saw Marc Bolan in Calgary with T.Rex opening up for Blue Oyster Cult. So he was taking a lot of kind of, maybe to him, maybe demeaning opening slots in America to try to make it. Because in the UK he was playing arenas, and he was coming to America and having to open up for, and even Blue Oyster Cult at the time were kind of, they weren't the juggernaut that they became in the 70s. So, he even kind of lowered his standards a bit, I guess, and kind of really tried to break it, and he never quite did. But like I said, that was the kind of the start of the decline. Which moves us on to Zinc Alloy and the Hidden Riders of Tomorrow. Yeah, this is an odd album. 1974. Marc is really, and let's get this right. It's when I say Marc, Marc is T.Rex. I think Mickey Finn. I don't think him or his predecessor Steve Peregrine took that any say in the sound whatsoever. It was pretty much all Marc Bolan and maybe Tony Visconti to a certain extent. Yeah, Zinc Alloy. If Tanks is, I'm gonna give Tanks a solid 8. If Tanks is an 8, this has got to be, if I'm going to be stuck in that ratings thing, I'm going to have to give this a 6. It's, it's like I said, it's a very challenging listen. Not in the sense of his Tyrannosaurus Rex stuff. It's just, I just don't know if the songs are up to scratch, to be honest with you. A lot of people might disagree with that. There's some killer songs on here, don't get me wrong. Favorite songs being Teenage Dream. And after Teenage Dream, there's a couple ones I really do like sound pit change. And after that, you know, Interstellar Soul I quite like actually. After that, it kind of gets a bit thin. He's really, as you can tell by the inner sleeve, there's a lot, you know, there's quite a few shots of his backup singers here. He was really kind of engrossing himself in that American R&B sound. In fact, a lot of people credit David Bowie with kind of picking up the R&B sound with his Young Americans album and kind of working to popularize that. And in fact, Marc Bolan kind of predated him by a year, whereas I think David Bowie did it to greater effect, arguably. Marc Bolan definitely was kind of immersing himself in that American R&B soul Philly sound, and I just don't know if it worked for him very well. A lot of chart problems with this album. It just didn't do very well in the UK. And like I said, I don't know how it did in America. I haven't bothered looking. I can't see it. I don't even know if it was released in America, to be honest with you. So thusly, I don't think it charted. Zinc Alloy. Like I said, this is for the hardened fan. If you like the first 4 albums I showed you, this is definitely a progression on to that. So it's definitely with the T.Rex stuff, it's good to kind of start it maybe at the beginning and work your way kind of forward, because it puts a better context on his music as he kind of gets a bit older. 1974's Zinc Alloy. Yeah, definitely not the place to start for me, and I wouldn't really recommend it. Which brings us to this kind of odd album. This is Light of Love. There's the kind of, this is the original Casablanca Records pressing, and this is kind of the recent Record Store Day picture disc that came out. We're going to show the picture disc one as it's a little bit more, it's nice, a little bit nicer to look at. Marc Bolan got dumped by his record label in America, Reprise Records. He couldn't get another deal, and really struggling, still wanting to make that, you know, he was still had his record deals in Europe and all that, where he still kind of maintained a modicum of success. But in America and Canada, I guess I have to kind of include Canada, he got dumped by Reprise Records, and he just could not find another record label. And finally, Casablanca Records, for us North Americans, you'll know Casablanca as being the label Kiss was on. But at the time, they had, you know, they had a lot of, you know, I'm not sure if this kind of predated disco. They had like Donna Summer at a point, Village People like that. So Casablanca Records at the time, they didn't have a lot of money. They worked extensively to work this album, Light of Love. Light of Love actually is an odd album. It contains 3 songs from this. This is I should say, this is an American and Canada only release. This wasn't released anywhere else outside of North America. It was kind of an odd album. It contained 3 songs from Zinc Alloy, and then some newer songs, and some songs that actually went on to form the basis of his next album after this. So Light of Love, even though Casablanca was going broke, they spent the farm, or bet the farm, spent all their money trying to promote this album, and it didn't chart. No singles charted. And it was the one and only album he did for Casablanca Records, Light of Love. Like I said, it's kind of it's almost 3 albums in one. 3 songs off of Zinc Alloy, some songs recorded for here, and then songs that went on to form the basis of his next album. Light of Love, it's very, very unspectacular. Yeah. I'm going to give this one a 4. If that. It's like I said, it's for the brave only, I would say. Which brings us to this album, Zip Gun. Bolan Zip Gun. This is, I mean, you know what, for me, I think this is, like I said, the songs he recorded for Light of Love, he formed the basis of this album, and this album was properly released in Europe and UK, which I don't think this one charted either, but I think it was kind of, a lot of people call this a low point for him. Which means there's still some good songs on here. It's like I said, this is one to kind of work your way towards. Here's the back of that one if you care. A nice little die cut sleeve on this one. Um, yeah, Zip Gun Boogie appears on this one, which I'll say is probably my favorite song off this album. Light of Love, the aforementioned Light of Love, which appeared on the previous album. But yeah, Zip Gun Boogie. You know, some people might argue with me, but I would really like Space Boss, I guess, and Things Inc. Maybe the only other songs I would consider kind of songs of note. Once again, an album for the brave only. Like I said, a lot of people highly regard this album. There's a lot of Marc Bolan fans that I find that have blinders on, and the guy didn't do any wrong whatsoever. But there's more realistic fans out there that'll know what I'm talking about. Bolan Zip Gun is definitely one of his lesser albums. I got to give that one a 4 as well. All right. I might turn comments off for this one if I'm going to piss some hardcore Marc Bolan fans off. We're going to move along to 1976's Futuristic Dragon. I'm not doing too bad for this all coming off the old melon, am I? Futuristic Dragon. To me, this is the album. Actually, the artwork here was the same artist that did, and although we weren't talking about Tyrannosaurus Rex, I believe it's the same artist that did a lot of his earlier Tyrannosaurus Rex stuff. He kind of returned to that. Nice artwork, but it's I could see it definitely getting lost on the record shelves. It's not. It doesn't really scream Marc Bolan or T.Rex, does it? Nice artwork. Don't get me wrong. But if you're struggling to regain your place in the UK charts, your sales are struggling, I don't know if that was maybe the best idea, but it's my opinion. 1976's Futuristic Dragon. I think it's kind of him. He's making those baby steps back to be where he should be. He's still experimenting. There is a lot of, like I said, the last few albums I've been showing you, there's a lot of female backup singers. Very, there's I think there's a Midnight Special concert on YouTube where you can kind of see that period where he's got the full on backup singer. His future wife Gloria Jones features very heavily on his albums now, and as a backup singer live. So I'm not sure if those backup singers really kind of translated well on the older hits. Personally, I kind of, I wasn't a big fan of, but they did work to some effect on this album. This is, I believe this album is without Tony Visconti, I believe, and I'm testing my memory here, but I'm not sure if this might have been the last album or he had already bailed by then. Tony Visconti is longtime producer, and Marc Bolan had a falling out over the way Marc was treating Tony, and he waved bye-bye, and Marc didn't seem to give a shit, and he kind of carried on producing his own stuff. This, in fact, yeah, this Tony Visconti had gone by this point, and this was produced by Marc Bolan himself. Like I said, to me, another challenging listen in the sense that it's not a very cohesive set of songs, in my opinion. And like I said, those heavy female backing vocals are, they kind of start to wear a bit thin for me. But if I had to kind of pick a good song, my favorite song off here, as I stroll the album, it has to be New York City. It has to be. As I struggle to put this in. So I'm going to give this a slight upgrade to a 5 out of 10. He's clawing his way back. Futuristic Dragon. Like I said, a lot of people think Bolan Zip Gun and Futuristic Dragon are his low points. I kind of think a bit more highly of Futuristic Dragon personally. And of course, for all you watching, this is my opinion. This is in fact my opinion. Some bloke in Northern Canada. Which brings us to the end. His last album, 1977. Dandy in the Underworld. This is his comeback album. This is where he's back. He's lost the weight. He's off the cocaine. He's a little bit more level-headed. You know, a lot of people won't go into history, but you know, he thought very highly of himself, and he gained a lot of weight. He went through his Elvis phase, and this is him. He has a child, Roland Bolan, if you don't know. He seems happy. He's married. He's a family man, and he makes this great album, Dandy in the Underworld. For this tour, he went on tour with. He took the Damned with him as the opening act, which is a very famous tour he did in the UK, where he kind of embraced. He was embracing punk music, whether there was genuine or whether it was a marketing ploy, who knows. But it did a lot of good for bands. He had his own television show where he featured a lot of bands like The Jam and yeah, now I'm blanking. Generation X was on. But yeah, sadly his last album before he passed away. And I guess the reason for me doing this video, we're coming up to the 40th anniversary of his passing. And there's a lot of releases coming out to mark the anniversary, which you should tread carefully on. You know, Marc Bolan and T.Rex, they are the subjects of a lot of cash-in projects by reissue labels. Well, I'm holding out hope for some good, solid reissues coming out this year. But we'll get back to Dan in the Underworld. Favorite songs off this one? Like I said, he died not too long afterwards, making this album. If you don't know, he died in a car crash. That was in a car that was driven by his wife. And, his wife was injured, Gloria Jones, but Mark sadly died when they crashed into a tree. I'm gonna scan this album, and my favorite song has to be probably Danny in the Underworld and The Soul of My Suit. There you go. The final T.Rex proper album, although there's been endless albums coming out afterwards, kind of posthumous collections of demos and other things, and there's been some albums of people recording the music and kind of throwing it out there as new music. To me, that's the end. That's the proper end of it. Was Dandy in the Underworld. There you go. Having said that, I have a very wide selection of singles. I'm not going to bother showing you. This isn't necessarily a show and tell. This is kind of like for a new person, an introduction to the music, since people have asked me. And Dandy in the Underworld, I'm going to give a solid 8 out of 10. It's curious to know, or it's curious to kind of wonder what could have been after that. Would he have made that great comeback and kind of ended up in Bowie territory where he was so highly regarded later, or he could have fallen into playing the cabaret circuit like a lot of those bands did? I tend to think Mark would have maybe not achieved Bowie status, godlike status. I definitely think he would have held his own. I think he would have been an ongoing concern in the 80s, maybe in the 90s, who knows. So there you go. We're going to end it right here. This was my, let's call this an introduction to Marc Bolan and T.Rex. Take that for what it is. And we're going to end it here. Thank you for watching. If you've watched this, if anyone watches this video, I'm happy. I don't do these videos for views, to be honest with you. I do these ones for the love of the music, and if I can share something with someone and you get anything out of it, then it's kind of, you know, I've accomplished something with that one. So take care, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Oh, and keep a little mark in your heart as he ended his TV shows. Take care, everyone.